Hello, my name is Isha, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I clean up my ends. As a general rule, I assess my hair for a trim or haircut once every season, and whether or not I give myself a haircut is contingent upon how I am styling my hair and the condition of my ends. For example, if I am wearing back-to-back natural styles, I may be able to skip a season because the styles that I'm wearing don't require perfect ends. Or if it is a period of time where I barely used any heat and I'm not likely to have a lot of single strand knots or weathered ends, I may skip the trim. Otherwise, I do trim it anywhere between 2 to 4 times a year by checking it once a season. And the way that I maintain my hair in the interim or between that is I do dust my hair from week to week. That way any splits or single strand knots are removed on site or immediately and don't have a chance to travel up the rest of my hair, even if my dustings make my hair a little bit uneven. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you today. So I do start by flipping my hair up to show my nape. And so when I do a seasonal trim or clean up my hair, I always both dust and trim. So I'm going to start with the perimeter. So I put on my hair up into a bun, and then I'm going to just brush down my nape. And I'll use any pair of professional shears. I have some Hassami shears because Golden Supreme had them on sale last year and I bought a bunch of them. But any shear that's sharp will do the job. I use the same pair of Tweezerman shears from like 2006 until like 2014 till they ever needed sharpening. So, and I have like grinding stones myself. So, just a quality shears that are still sharp will work. So, I'm just gonna take this and I'm just feeling for weathering at the ends and unevenness, and I'm just gonna snip this right off. A little hair pinched in the middle. Alright. And then that's for my nape. It's about, cut about a ½ inch. Some of the pieces were a little bit longer or stringy and were maybe 5 or 6 inches, but those were only like a few strands, like less than 5 strands. And I'm just feeling to make sure I don't feel any weathered ends or single strand knots. Now once I get to the front here, I'm just going to brush my edges down. And my edges are thin just from years of wearing braids when I was a little girl. But I'm still going to do the same. They're thinner. This is the thinnest part of my hair on this side. And they come down to my jawline, but I'm just going to snip that section. And I'm just going to do the same here. Going to snip. And each nip is about a ½ inch. Now the hair that's in the front here is actually really long. So I don't need to do that separately. But I'm just going to do the same on this side. And you can, as you see here, this side is a lot thicker than that other side was. But I'm going to do the same. to go past my jawline. Alright, so once I do that, I'm ready to part my hair for the rest of the trim. And so I do part my hair in different sections because I feel like cutting my hair by pulling different sections of hair different ways just kind of helps me catch things that just combing it the same way 100% of the time would not catch. So I'm going to show you that. So when I part my hair in the front, right here where the ear starts is where I'm going to part across to this side where the ear starts. And I know a lot of people have issues with parting. Get you a pintail comb and pretend you're in kindergarten tracing. That's the easiest way to do it. I just pretend that I'm tracing in kindergarten, and that has always helped me part efficiently. And I used to braid. I used to be a braider. I braided my way through college. So the front, I have parted from the front of the ear to ear, not the peak of the ear, the front of the ear. Okay, and then I'm just going to do a part down the middle towards my nose. The nose is my guide. My nose is my guide. And then I have two sections like that, and I'm going to pin that away. Once I have that section out the way, in a previous video I mentioned like right here is the section of my hair that gets the most weathering, gets the most friction, can sometimes have the most split ends or single strand knots just because it gets the most manipulation in everyday wear. So I cut that separately. I'll cut from, see where the top of my ear is right here, I'm going to part it horizontally from peak to peak of my ear. I let the reel play back and saw that it was kind of hard to see me parting from ear to ear, so I'm just going to show that again. So the top of my ear is right here, and I'm just going to part to the top of the other ear. I just went a little above it for a better example, but from the top of my ear across there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be pretty darn good when I finish. It gives me workable sections. So when I dust, I'm looking for single strand knots and split ends. Right now, the window is open, so I can see the natural light, because when I just look at my hair in natural light, I can see any split ends or single strand knots as clear as day. Now the method that I like to use to trim or to dust, I actually saw it from Sam Billa like over a decade ago. Like when that video was new, I'll link it in my description box. But I use the 3-finger method, where I take my hair, a section of hair, put it between 3 fingers so that the split ends will spit up at me, and I can just trim down the split end. And then I just flip it to the other side and I do the same thing. And I do that to every section of my hair. If you are somebody who just wants to use a tool to trim, I also have this gadget here. And this isn't quite a comb. It's called the Splissart. And it's from Hercules, Sägemann. I think it might be pronounced Hercules, Sägemann. But it does the same thing as my 3 fingers. So just like my 3 fingers will cause any short pieces to split up at me so that they can get part of this trim action too, this will do the same thing, and it is seamless. This is kind of hard to find, but it is on eBay, and I'll go ahead and link where it's still available on eBay. But it's kind of hard to find in a store. But all I would do is take this down while I'm trimming any pieces that stick out. And that will make sure that even the short pieces that don't reach my hemline still get cleaned up. So I start by dusting each section, and then after I finish dusting each section, at that point I will go ahead and clean up the shape. This tool is not necessary. I am just into hair tools and gadgets. I like being able to feel my hair between my fingers because it allows me to feel for single strand knots and weathering, but this is still a good tool. So the one thing to keep in mind though when using this method is that you want to make sure you don't cut any loops, because then you'll cut more hair than needed. But what's happening here is the little short hairs are sticking up, and it's allowing me just to cut the tips of that a few centimeters off any hair that doesn't reach the hemline. And that makes it so that even if your hair doesn't touch your hemline, that those ends are still freshly chopped. They're crisp, and you don't have the risk of split ends going up the shaft. I have seen other variations of this method. I know some people do like the twisting method. It's really the same thing. I've heard it called different things. I've always just called it dusting. More recently I've heard it called a micro trim. And so I did this side. There's a flip up this side. Now I'm just flipping it this way so I can get the other side, get it pretty thorough. So I do it both ways. I do this with this tool sometimes. Well, sometimes I just use my fingers, but since I was making the video, I said why not just use the tool. I do like the tool. It's just that I like to feel it with my fingers a little bit better. And as each hair is sticking out, as I see hair sticking out, I just trim them up. And I got, you know, a little dusting of hair on my skirt here, a few centimeters. I used to only just flip my hair up and then look at the search and destroy and trim splittings that way. I used to do that. And then the twist method, I used to do that. But then when I saw the 3-finger method from Sam Bill, I was like, I really like that, and I never stopped doing it. And I've been doing the search and destroy with the 3-finger method that I'm about to show you. I've been doing this for well over 10 years, and I love trimming my hair this way. It's very efficient. Alright, so the 3-finger method is just like using this, except I can feel my hair better. One of the reasons I always use a super fine tooth comb, because if I have a single strand knot, a super fine comb will catch that. A regular fine comb may miss it, but a super fine comb will catch single strand knots and snag. So I just weave my hair through my fingers just like it was weaved through the tool, and then I will continue dusting. The same thing as that tool was doing. And I don't know if you can, the camera is picking it up, but there's hairs right here that flip up. And that way I can just get the little, a few centimeters off of it. That way. And so let me just, and I do it that way. And then I'll flip it to the other side and do it again. And I just want to draw attention to how my fingers are. So I just have it interloop through my fingers. So my pointer finger is on top, my middle finger is underneath, and then my ring finger is also on top. And so I have to pull it tight. I have to pull it tightly against my finger, because if I create a space where there's like a loop right here, and I cut this, that's going to cut 10 inches of hair, 12 inches of hair off. So it has to be tight against my finger for this to work. Otherwise, it's going to cut off a chunk of hair that don't need to be cut. So I'm going to interloop it between my fingers, spread it out a little bit, and I'm going to keep it tight so that the shorter hairs can flip up and I can catch them with my scissors. Now let's go slowly. And any sharp pair of scissors will do. Any sharp pair of scissors will do that are shears for hair. Let me say that. Any sharp pair of shears will do, not any pair of scissors. Any sharp pair of shears will do. Dust, I am going to shape it a little bit. That's why I have it in these sections. The sections are for shaping it. The dusting is for keeping it crisp, keeping it healthy, getting the hair damage, keeping those ends crisp. And if the section of hair that I'm trimming is so thick that the shorter hairs in the bulk won't spit up, I'll just split the section into a smaller piece so that I can spread the hair enough for the short hairs to flip up and trim them accordingly. A whole bunch of hairs sticking up needing to be cut off. Then I waited a little too long to trim my hair again. But if I'm still not seeing a whole bunch of split ends or knots or hairs that are spitting up out of me out of uniform, then usually that means my cadence is pretty good. And I might do a thorough dusting like this, maybe once a month. But I'll do a little dusting like this like once a month. And I do not do this, a thorough trim like this, if I have done a bond treatment, because a lot of times a bond treatment or even really heavy serum sometimes can make it hard for your hair to flip up and be able to see what needs to be cut. Sometimes it can coat your hair and you can't feel I can't feel what needs to be cut. So I prefer to do this on hair that's been just a regular wash and deep condition, maybe a protein treatment, but I really avoid doing this with bond treatments. Let's do a link shot. I'll do one more on this side. Now I'm still feeling the hair that's up here, but that's newer hair. And that usually doesn't have as much that needs to be cut, although every now and then I might feel like a single strand knot or something, and when I do, cut it off on site. But it's usually the hair that's a little bit longer, that's been through some things. It may need a little snip. Usually the hair towards the top is on my hair. I can't speak for everybody. I'm not speaking for everybody. But on my hair, usually the hair towards the top is the smoother hair. See, right here, I have a lot more hair sticking up. But I expect that because that's my middle piece that I said has all that extra friction. So I almost always cut more hair in this section than the other sections. Almost always. So this is not unexpected. On my hair, it is normal that as I get towards the bottom, those ends to start flipping up more at me. But the cool thing is, as I'm snipping these ends, I'm hardly seeing any split ends, hardly feeling or seeing any single strand knots, and I'm here for that. I love that. Just want to show you guys an alternative. If you like protective styles, that's cool. If you want to try some new things that you've never done with your hair to roll, that's cool. But I never want anybody to feel like our hair, as beautiful as it is a burden. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. To do a lot with it, and that's what I find myself doing. Wear it straight when I wanna, wear it stretch when I wanna, wear it natural when I wanna, set it how I wanna, swing it how I wanna. I love it. Did like a rinse on my hair. I do not dye my hair. I've used that temporary color deposit roux stuff sparingly, like a few times. Not anything that was regular, but I've always liked my hair color, and so I don't dye it. And now that more of those grays are peeking in, I really appreciate that I took the time to enjoy the natural hair color that I had, because I got an expiration date. I got an expiration date on it. And I don't really see myself beginning to dye my hair once it turns gray. I'm just gonna let it come in, but I don't have a whole lot of gray. I don't have what I would consider normal for my age. But my mom doesn't either. My mom has my mom's in her late 60s. And she gets it around her perimeter. But she doesn't have a whole bunch of gray in the middle of her hair. So I think when I'm her age, I'm not going to have that much either. also works better if my hair doesn't accidentally go past the knuckle. Sometimes if the hair goes past the knuckle where there's a bend in my hand, it doesn't flip up the way that I need it to, so I do try to avoid the hair going past my knuckle, the middle knuckle. So there's a there's the initial knuckle here, and then there's the middle one. I don't like it going past that middle knuckle if I can help it. And I try to keep that first knuckle pretty straight. And I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but you can see the little fine hair sticking up that aren't uniform, and they may not even be split, but just take it a little bit off those ends, help them stay crisp. Help them stay crisp before they dry out and split. And I just prefer this way. But I do want to clean up my hemline, because it's been a while since I've had a thorough trim. So I'm going to do that now. When I cut my hair to clean up my ends, I either pull it forward or pull it up. So when I cut this part, I'm just going to pull it straight out and cut it pretty even. And what will happen is there may be some pieces that are a little bit shorter that fall down. I'll pay attention to that, and I'll make sure I snip a little bit off of those ends when I see that. So I'm just gonna pull this straight out, paying attention to anything that's falling down. Now I have a tape measure here. It's about 3.5 inches. I won't miss it. Just gonna cut it off. There. Kind of wispy anyway. Okay. And I'm gonna bring the perimeter forward. Gonna bring that perimeter, the front forward. Piece in the front, bring that forward. This is the easiest part to cut. Bring this part forward. And I just kind of look to see where it gets a little wispy. Just losing my tape measure. That's almost 4 inches, the longest part. I won't miss it. Got it right there. I'm just going to bring this up. If it's too long for my wingspan and it gets like that, usually if my hair is like hip or longer, I just comb it up and keeping my spot. I'll pull the hair down. Look to see where it gets a little wispy. And one of the tricks that I like to do, instead of just cutting my hair straight across every time, sometimes I'll do it like a curve, like a half moon or a crescent, and that way it'll make it fall nicer, even if it isn't perfectly even. So this is what I took off that first section. Just gonna add it to that. At this point, I am going to edit out some of the footage. I underestimated how much of the footage was out of frame while I was pulling it up and then pulling it to cut. And so a lot of it, unfortunately, is just outside of the frame, and I just did not get a good zoomed out angle. So the portions of the footage that are still clear, I will keep within this video. But the portions that are out of frame, I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Withering. Like if this felt really rough towards the ends, I would cut this off too, but it's all right. It feels fine. Now this, I'm gonna have it horizontal. Pull it back. Pull it back. And then take a little off. This actually is still pretty even. I usually pull like the back line horizontal, like just pull it straight back, the side pull it straight up, pull it straight up. I just like the way that falls a little bit better. I do it that way, so that's how I usually do it. Alright, so this is just one example of how I trim. I do part different ways, but I always dust then shape. So as always, if you like this video, my content, my overall vibe, I welcome you to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.